Mathematicians, today we're going to focus on elapsed time. And basically what that is how much time has passed or how long did that take you. And a lot of these are real life situations where if you're taking a car ride, how long was that car ride? Or if you need to cook something and you need to put the timer for 25 minutes later, what time will that be? So we're going to try to practice this, and then later on we'll apply it to more word problems so you can see how it's used in real life situations. Before we get started, I want us to look at this diagram here. 12 midnight is considered to be the start of one full day, which includes both nighttime and daytime. So in a full day, the hour hand travels from 12 midnight 2 times. Okay, so you go to 12, it goes twice around the 12 twice. That's how when you have your AM, so at midnight to noon, all your times are in the morning. And then from noon, like 12:01 on, 12 o'clock on, to 11:59, you have your PM times. So I want you to really think of this visual about how our day starts. So 24 hours, here's 12 hours, another 12 hours. Okay, so let's look now at some pictures and how we can tell about elapsed time. Here, what time is 26 minutes after 9:30? So here again, we can count 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 plus one more minute. That brings us to 9:56. Remember, we didn't go past the 12, so we're still at that ninth hour. Okay, and that shows 26 minutes later. Let's try another one. Okay, so how many minutes are there in 1 hour? So when we take this minute hand and go all the way clockwise around the clock, one time around, you went around 60 minutes or a full hour. So here we have 4 o'clock. Okay, so we're at the 4 o'clock hour. So 1 hour later is 5 o'clock. That's pretty simple to see from 4 to 5 o'clock. Let me just show you mine. Okay, so you can see the old clock did not change, but you do have the hours that change from 4 to 5. Okay, so now let's look at this clock. This is 6:45. So you have the hour is 6, and now an hour later is 7:45. So notice you're moving the hour up one, but you're keeping the minutes the same. So the minute hand stays the same, but your hour goes up. Okay, that's pretty straightforward too. So let's keep moving on. The more problems we do, the harder it will get. So let's just come up with a scenario. So for example, if you put some food in the microwave at 4:50, and then you set the timer for 25 minutes, at what time did the timer go off? Well, you can definitely still do what we've been showing you to show 25 minutes, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Because you went past the 12, you are now at a new hour and you stop here. So it's at 15. So when you do 25 minutes later, you're now at 5 and then 15 because that's where we stop. Okay, let's keep looking. Now here, what is 10:50? What is 4 hours later? Well, we can jump, right? We can do, 10:50 to 11:50 to 12:50 to 1:50 to 2:50. Now notice we have AM, okay? Once you go to 12, you are now at PM for noon. So let's see what we have here. You have 2:50 p.m. Because it's saying 4 hours later, you're counting up. You can use your fingers for this too. Count up 4 hours and you can keep the minutes the same, but you do need to notice that you're changing from AM to PM because once you hit that 12 noon, you're switching to PM. Okay. So now let's look at this a little bit more differently. What I want us to focus on I'm going to give you a tool that's going to make elapsed time a lot easier. So here we have 11:15. Okay, and the end time is 3:15. It's hard to keep going around the clock and figuring it out, so I want us to use something. You can think of time passing as a timeline, and on this timeline, each mark is the next hour after the start time. So let me show you what I mean by that. I made a timeline, and it's just like our number lines we've been doing in class. My start time is 11:15. And then I'm jumping to 12:15, 1:15, 2:15, 3:15. So that was fairly easy. So when I count my hours, I have 4 hours. So 4 hours has passed from 11:15 to 3:15. And what's nice about this problem, you notice the minutes stay the same, but we're counting up, just changing the hour, okay, to get to 4 hours. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, this time, so let's look at this a little bit more closely. How long did the drive take? So you left your house, let's say 11:15, and you arrived somewhere at 3:52. So when we put that on a timeline, look what I did. I started at 11:15, and I'm going to jump. Here's 3 hours. I'm not going to get to that 4:15, right? Because we have our minutes are different. So let's jump. 11:15, 12:15, 1:15, 2:15, 3:15. So I'm going to stop here because if I go to 4:15, I went too far and then I would have to count backwards, which is certainly another strategy. We'll do that another time, but right now I'm just counting up. So if I counted to 3:15, I'm going to think of my friendly numbers. And I wanted to jump 30 is a friendly number for me, so I'm going to jump 30 minutes, which brings me to my landmark of 3:45. I didn't reach my end time yet, so I knew I needed to jump 7 more minutes to get to 3:52. Now, some of you might have broken this up to 5 minutes and then 2 minutes. That's fine, because we always talk about those friendly numbers. So now when I count 1, 2, 3, 4 hours, and I have 30 minutes plus 7 minutes, which is 37 minutes. Okay, let's keep trying this with the timeline. So now here you have your start time at 10:50 p.m. But look, you're ending your drive at 2:14 a.m. So you're driving through the night. You're going to pass through midnight. So when I start at 10:50 and jump to 11:50, right about here is where I'm switching to my AM hours, okay, because that's around midnight. So let's jump 10:50 to 11:50 to 12:50 to 1:50. I'm going to stop there because if I jump to 2:50, I went too far. So at 1:50, I jumped 10 minutes to get to my landmark number of 2. And then I added 14 more minutes. And my little markings here are worth 2. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. 14 is right before the 2:15. So when I add my numbers, my hours and my minutes, you can see this. I have 1, 2, 3 hours. 10 plus 14 is 24 minutes. So the time that's passed is 3 hours, 24 minutes. Okay, good job. This is a little hard, so the timeline is what makes it a little bit easier with these friendly jumps. Okay, so let's keep revisiting now. We know the units of time is hour and minutes. 1 hour is 60 minutes. We want to keep thinking about that when we're adding our hours and minutes. So here we have how many minutes are there from 1:15 p.m. to 1:42 p.m. So this one's nice because they're only asking for minutes and we're staying from p.m. to p.m. So if I make my number line, I start at 1:15, but I'm not going to jump to all the way to 2:15, right? Because I'm only going to 1:42. So I know if 15 and 15 would get me to 1:30 plus another 10 minutes plus another 2 minutes. So when I add my 15 minutes plus my 10 minutes plus my 2 minutes, I have 27 minutes that passed. And this one is easier too if you wanted to make your jumps 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 26, 27. This one is definitely easier if you wanted to use the clock, but again, practice your timeline because the problems will be harder for us to do. So let's try the next one. Okay, something like this too, it's asking now how many hours are there. So we know we're going to keep our minutes. And we also are keeping PM, right? We're not switching from PM to AM, which is really important. So you can count up in your fingers from 3 to 8, or you can do a timeline. For practice right now, I would like you to make a timeline. Start with the number that this clock is pointing to, which is 3:18. It's nice they give it to us, and then ends 8:18. Show us how you made your jumps. So pause and press play when you're ready to reveal the answer. Okay, so now we're going to compare our timeline. All right, so let's look what I did. So I started at 3:18. We're going to 8:18. So 4:18, 5:18, 6:18, 7:18, 8:18. So when you count how many jumps you did, you jumped 5 hours. Okay, good job. I hope that you were able to do that. Now let's try the next one together. How long is it from 9:15 a.m.? Okay, so now they're not saying how many hours, and they're not saying how many minutes, because if you look, the hours and the minutes are different. But what's nice is we're still in the morning hours, a.m. Okay, so pause, start your timeline at 9:15 and show us what you get. Okay, so press play, and or you press play already. Let's now look at our answers together. So if I start at 9:15 and I jump to 10:15, and then I jump to 11:15, if I go to 12:15, I'm going too far. So in order to jump to 11:30, I know I can jump another 15 minutes, which is 11:30. So when I count my jumps, I have 1 hour plus another hour, which is 2 hours, and I'm left with 15 minutes. So the time from 9:15 to 11:30 is 2 hours and 15 minutes. Okay, let's do the same thing here. How long is it from 10:45 a.m. to p.m.? Now notice we're going from a.m. to p.m. and our hours are different and our minutes are different. So pause, make your number line, and let's see what you do. Okay, so if you're ready you press play, then you're ready for your answer. So look what I started with. I started at 10:45. Okay, I jumped to 11:45 to 12:45. So here's our switch from AM to PM. Okay, and I even put it here. So I know I ran around the clock and I went past that 12. Now I know from 45 to 1, I have 15 minutes in between. So I jumped 15 minutes to get me to 1 p.m. and I jumped another 15 minutes to get to 1:15. Now, for those who realize that 12:45 to 1:15 is 30 minutes, you could just jump the 32. It's up to you. But I liked to break it down this way. It was easier for me. So here, when I add my hours and my minutes, I have 2 hours and 30 minutes. So boys and girls, great job today. We hope this tool of the timeline really helps you. You want to pay attention to the AM, the PM, the hours, and the minutes. Elapsed time is a big part of our life, and we're going to learn how this applies to our real life when we work with the word problems. But now think about it. When you're home, think about how long it takes you to do something, how long it takes you to drive somewhere, or how long you should put the timer on for something. So really pay attention to that. Today you have 2 workbook pages, so please notice from 3:15 p.m. to 3:40 p.m. How many minutes later is that? Here is how many hours later is that. And your last page, you're breaking it up from hours and minutes later for these problems. Good luck, third graders.